Today on TimesCast, a federal judge declares a mistrial in the Roger Clemens perjury case. Republican leaders bring different approaches to the debt ceiling negotiations. And a new study shows that though alpha males may get all the attention, it could be better being a beta, at least if you're a baboon.
On the second day of Roger Clemens' trial in Washington, the U.S. District Judge today declared a mistrial. Clemens is on trial in federal court for perjury, obstruction of Congress, and making false statements dating back to his congressional testimony regarding his alleged use of performance-enhancing drugs in 2008. The judge had ordered the prosecution to abstain from entering certain pieces of evidence during this trial. For example, in the video from 2008, there was discussion about Andy Pettit, a former teammate of Roger Clemens and close friend.
Your word is that Andy Pettit is an honest man, and his credibility pretty much impeccable.
The judge thought that that might influence how this jury feels about Pettit when he takes the stand, at which point the judge stopped the proceedings and asked the jury to leave the room, and shortly thereafter he declared the mistrial.
What he announced in court was that we would have a hearing then as to whether double jeopardy applied.
What do you think?
Oh, I wouldn't even hazard a guess.
So where does this leave us? We have to wonder what happens next. Judge Walton said that he wants both sides to attend a hearing on September 2nd, at which point they will determine whether there will be a retrial. They'd have to start all over with jury selection, presumably. If that doesn't happen, then Roger Clemens and his lawyer, Rusty Hardin, will be able to declare victory.
All right, guys, this is the same shot you had yesterday, except we're wearing ties today.
One of the most interesting things that has developed over the past week as these high-level, very intense negotiations have taken place here in Washington is the really striking differences between the Republican leadership. You have John Boehner, the Speaker of the House, who clearly made an attempt to find some sort of accommodation with the White House, but then very quickly found that he had gone a step too far with his party.
I want to get there. I want to do what I think is in the best interest of the country.
That provided an opening for Eric Cantor, the majority leader, the number 2 in the House, who really has become a kind of voice of the opposition, a tax increase opposition.
How are we going to ensure that we're actually changing the system in Washington? That we're actually going to change the way that we spend taxpayer dollars?
At the White House the other night, it was Eric Cantor and the president who really clashed, especially at the end of the meeting. Mr. Cantor came out of the White House immediately afterwards and essentially described the back and forth between himself and the president. He said the president walked out of the meeting. The White House disputes that. And then you have the sort of third Republican here, which is Senator Mitch McConnell, the leader of the Republicans in the Senate, who really has adopted a kind of realpolitik view of this, sort of damn the principles involved. Let's just do as a party whatever we need to do to make sure we're not blamed for this whole mess.
If we go into default, he will say that Republicans are making the economy worse and try to convince the public, maybe with some merit.
So he's proposed this idea that would shift the burden, shift the responsibility for increasing the debt ceiling back to President Obama. The conservative Republicans that Mr. Cantor leads are very angry at Mr. McConnell for essentially giving the president a way to avoid deep cuts in spending. Those are the dynamics, the internal dynamics for the Republicans. Mr. McConnell, who's in one place, Mr. Boehner, who is in another place, Mr. Cantor, who has emerged as the real face of the opposition. All three men are offering a different message throughout the course of each of these days, and it's really created a kind of muddled Republican response that's hard to grasp, hard to know, where the Republican bottom line is at any given moment.
And in the journal Science, field biologists report some good news for beta male baboons.
In pop culture, the alpha male rules. The one who's the strongest, the most powerful, the sexiest, gets all the women, kills all the tigers. Think Russell Crowe in Gladiator.
Frost. Sometimes it makes the blade stick.
The beta male is a little more quiet. The good boy grown up who's worried about balancing the budget. A good choice for a husband, but after you've had your fling with Russell Crowe. In the journal Science, researchers have reported on some studies of baboons that suggest being the number 2 baboon in a group, the beta male, can have certain benefits, and being the number one baboon, the alpha male, which is supposed to be so great, can actually have some downsides. The downside to being the top baboon is that the researchers have found these baboons have very high levels of stress. The good part about being the beta male is very low levels of stress. Now, it has to be said that the reason all male baboons want to be the alpha male is that they have a lot more mating opportunities. However, they don't stay as top baboon for very long. The beta males may stay number two for quite a long time, and while they have fewer mating opportunities, they still have more than all the other baboons, plus they've got a long period of time in their number two position. So it's really a question of a good Saturday night versus a good life.